Hare Krishna. Thank you, Ram Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Dhanvat Pranam. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Okay, so we'll continue with our prayer of this week, which is Shri Govardhan Ashtakam. So, we had a wonderful Govardhan manifested yesterday at ISKCON Cincinnati. We did wonderful circumambulation, and we sang these wonderful prayers by our acharyas glorifying the qualities of Giriraj Govardhan. So we'll continue with this nice prayer by Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Krishna prasadena samasta shaila samrajyamapnoti cha vairinopi shakrastya yah prapa balim sa sakshat govardhano me dishatam abhishtam स्वप्रेष्टहस्ताम्बुज सौकुमार्य सुखानुभूतेरतिभूमिवृत्ते महेन्द्रवज्राहतिमप्यजानन् गोवर्धनो मे दिशतामभीष्टम् यत्रैव कृष्णो वृषभानुपुत्र्य दानं गृहीतुं कलहं विधेने श्रुते स्पृहाय त्रमहत्यत श्री गोवर्धनो मे दिशतामभीष्टम् स्नात्वा सरहस्वाशु समीरहस्ति यत्रैव नीपादिपरागधूलि आलोलयन् खेलति चारु स श्री गोवर्धनो मे दिशतामभीष्टम् कस्तूरिकाभिषयितं किमत्रेत् ऊहं प्रभो स्वस्य मुहुर्वितन्वन् नैसर्गिकस्वीयशिलासुगन्धैर्गोवर्धनो मे दिशताम् अभीष्टम् वंशप्रतिध्वन्यनुसारवर्त्मा दिदृक्षवो यत्र हरिं हरिण्यः यान्त्यो लभन्ते न हि विस्मिता स गोवर्धनो मे दिशताम् अभीष्टम् यत्रैव गङ्गाम् अनुनाविराधाम् आरोह्य मध्ये तु निमग्ननौका कृष्णो हि राधा नुगलो बभौ स गोवर्धनो मे दिशताम् अभीष्टम् विना भवेत् किं हरिदासवर्य पदाश्रयां भक्तिरतः श्रयामि यम् एव स प्रेम निजेशयो श्री गोवर्धनो मे दिशताम् अभीष्टम् एतत् पठेद्यो हरिदासवर्य महानुभावाष्टकमादृचेता श्रीराधिका माधवयो पदाब्ज दास्यं स विन्देत् अचिरेण साक्षात् गोवर्धनो मे दिशतामभीष्टम् गोवर्धनो मे दिशतामभीष्टम् हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे श्री गोवर्धनाष्टकम की जय। श्री विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर की जय। जगत गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्णा। Kishori Radha Mataji, would you like to read the translation?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah.
May Govardhan Hill, which by Krishna's mercy became the king of all mountains, and receive the respectful tribute of its arch-enemy Indra, fulfill my desire. As it was held above the earth, it became so filled with happiness by experiencing the softness of its beloved Krishna's lotus hand. It did not even know that it was being struck by Indra's thunderbolt. May Govardhan Hill fulfill my desire. Trying to collect a toll, Krishna quarreled there with King Vrishabhanu's daughter. The personified Vedas yearn to listen to that quarrel. May Govardhan Hill fulfill my desire. Bathing in a nearby lake, the elephant of a pleasant breeze, covered with pollen of kadamba and other flowers, gracefully plays there. May Govardhan Hill fulfill my desire. Does the sweet fragrance of Govardhan come from the musk deer who relax there, from the Lord who plays there, or is it Govardhan's own natural scent? May Govardhan Hill fulfill my desire. Searching there for Lord Hari on the path of his flute music, the astonished deer did not find him. May Govardhan Hill fulfill my desire. As the divine couple traveled on the Ganges, there the boat began to sink in the middle. Krishna was splendidly handsome as Radha clung to his neck. May Govardhan Hill fulfill my desire. Without taking shelter of the feet of the hill, that is the best of Lord Hari's servants, and full of love for the divine king and queen, how is it possible to attain pure devotional service? May Govardhan Hill fulfill my desire. May the reader of these 8 verses glorifying Lord Hari's greatest servant, his heart melting with pure love, quickly attain direct service to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha Madhava. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, very well. Thank you so much, Mataji. Yes. So our Acharya has always explained how to reach the Lord by taking shelter of the Lord's best and greatest servants. So that should be our mood. That we take instructions from our acharyas in terms of how to approach the Lord. So similarly, Prabhupada Leela as we were reading yesterday, chapter 46, Prabhupada was saying the same thing as those other saints from other faiths had come there from Jainism and from Sikh, and they were asking Prabhupada to join for that unity of man conference and all the world religious conference. Prabhupada says there cannot be unity unless and until people in general are God conscious, right? Because people have forgotten God. They're manufacturing all these atomic bombs and nuclear bombs. And so then, Prabhupada explains that is the natural, nature's arrangement. If you're creating all these things, then there will be war. And ultimately, everybody will be destroyed because this place is Dukhalema Shashvatam. Prabhupada so nicely was explaining everything from Bhagavad Gita, from our scriptures. He's saying same thing what we read just in the prayer here, that everything is possible if we take to the pure devotional service of the Lord. But if we don't, and Prabhupada was saying, then that is what I'm doing. They were asking him, how are you preaching? How are you making all the young people follow this? And he was saying, because we are teaching the pure essence of what is given by Krishna without any alteration, without any adulteration, any deviation. Whatever Krishna has given, whatever the Lord has given in the revealed scriptures, we're just following as it is and preaching as it is. So that is how people are attracted, because when there is a pure product, then people will purchase that no matter how big the price is. Prabhupada was giving that analogy of the sweet shop in Delhi, that if it is making sweets of pure ghee, then no matter what the price is, there will always be customers, right? So that is the pure message of the Lord given by the pure devotees of the Lord, and that is why people were being attracted to Srila Prabhupada all over the world. And he was nicely explaining and giving all those, responding to all the questions from the reporters as well about social work. What is true social work? True social work is pulling people out of those miserable conditions of life, of meat eating, intoxication, gambling. So that is the social work, and that is what Krishna consciousness is doing. That all these young people who were addicted to those, they have all given up all those bad habits, and now they have come to this pure form of life because of the pure message. And that is the true social work, not that you create students and then who are jumping off the university tower and dying, right? In Berkeley, as he was talking about in Berkeley Temple, Berkeley, to the reporters. So, yeah. So, anybody who is sincere and who has that intelligence will take on to this pure message. So let's continue chapter 47. Preaching to America Part 2, Los Angeles, July 22nd, 1975. More than 3 weeks had passed since Prabhupada had given the order for the BBT to produce 17 books in 2 months. Now, Rameshwar and Radha Vallabh reported that work was going on around the clock in all departments and that devotees were determined to meet their deadlines. Most press workers attended Mangala Aarti at 4:30 a.m., chanted their prescribed rounds of japa, and worked all day until late at night, sometimes taking only one meal. Additional editors, painters, photographers, indexers, typists, proofreaders, and layout men had been called in from other ISKCON departments. Everyone was cooperating to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's desire. It was as though nothing else existed except the task before them. Kingsport Press, one of the largest printers in the country, had taken the job of printing, agreeing to push back all other assignments to free their presses and bindery for work 24 hours a day until all 17 volumes were printed. A paper company in New York had agreed to supply paper at affordable terms to meet all the deadlines. The BBT's top photographer was in India, photographing places of Chaitanya Leela, especially in Bengal and Orissa. Srila Prabhupada freely gave his time to the artists and the Bengali editors, answering their questions. Several times a day, his disciples would come to him about the exact use of Sanskrit and Bengali words. This was not merely a matter of lingual scholarship, since each word had to be translated in light of the previous Acharya's explanations and Prabhupada's own Krishna conscious realization. Prabhupada had cautioned disciple editors not to change, but to ask. The artists had their usual questions about how things should look according to Srila Prabhupada's transcendental vision. In their desire to have the paintings completely accurate, they were greedy to ask him almost endless questions. Prabhupada had said the transcendental paintings of his disciples were windows to the spiritual world. The artists didn't want their imaginations to obscure the view. One day, Rameshwar came into Srila Prabhupada's room, carrying canvases by one of the artists whose proficiency the more experienced artists questioned. The artist in question, Gauri Devidasi, was a book distributor with artistic talent, pressed into emergency service for the book production marathon. Rameshwar showed Srila Prabhupada her painting of the Gundicha temple. Prabhupada's verdict, "Oh, this is very nice." One of the senior artists was present and pointed out several technical errors, but Prabhupada replied, "A blind uncle is better than none." Besides, he said the painting showed a devotional spirit the readers of the book would appreciate. Due to Srila Prabhupada's presence in Los Angeles, the book production marathon intensified. Even without attending Prabhupada's morning walks or classes or evening readings in the garden, the press workers felt ecstasy. All day they worked at what Prabhupada wanted most. And to take time off to go see him, they reasoned would be selfish. Giving all their energy for Krishna, they felt blissful. The press was busy day and night. To see devotees slumped over their desks or typewriters or lying beside their easels at 2 or 3 in the morning was not unusual. Proofreaders saw manuscripts come into and out of their hands so quickly they could hardly bear it. An artist might fall asleep before an uncompleted painting and awaken to find it being finished at another artist's easel. Rameshwar, running on very little sleep, orchestrated everything, including the photographer in India, the printer, and the paper company. Sometimes he would work directly with Radha Vallabh on various aspects of the production. Radha Vallabh had set the deadlines, and he kept to them at all costs. To the press workers, he seemed to be present everywhere, encouraging them, bringing them supplies, seeing to their needs, begging and coercing them to complete their quotas. But one night he took a break and entered Prabhupada's room during an informal gathering of devotees. Prabhupada, his eyes closed, his head gently rocking, was listening to a tape of himself singing bhajans. Opening his eyes and seeing Radha Vallabh seated among the others, he said, "I'm keeping you," and again closed his eyes. One of the devotees spoke up and said, "Oh, no, no, Prabhupada, you're not bothering us." But another devotee turned to Radha Vallabh and said, "I think Prabhupada was talking to you." Radha Vallabh realized what Prabhupada meant. He was telling him to go back to work. It was as if Prabhupada were actually saying, "Why are you sitting here looking at me? Get back to work." Srila Prabhupada was pleased with the sincerity of his disciples. 17 books in 2 months he had asked them to produce, and they, rather than try to explain to him why this was impossible, had taken the order so seriously that they could not conceive of rejecting or changing or modifying it. Instead of modifying the order, they had modified their lives. They had gone beyond the realm of routine work into the realm of extraordinary effort. As a result, both they and Prabhupada felt great satisfaction. As Prabhupada said, it was all an arrangement for the satisfaction of Lord Chaitanya and the previous acharyas. Srila Prabhupada decided to continue his US tour, visiting Laguna Beach and San Diego, and then going on to Dallas. From there, he would visit New Orleans and the nearby ISKCON farm in Mississippi. Then on to Detroit, Toronto, Boston, and New York, eventually traveling to Europe and India. From Prabhupada's point of view, his touring was imperative for spreading Krishna consciousness. As he had said in his arrival address at Berkeley, I'm traveling all over the world twice, thrice in a year. My duty is to see that my disciples who have accepted me as a guru may not fall down. That is my anxiety. Prabhupada's concern was for his disciples, but also for all people. Distressed by the fallen and ignorant state of humanity, especially in the West, he wanted to help the English speaking world as his spiritual master had ordered. This had been his spirit 2 years ago in Calcutta, when he had risen from his sick bed and flown to London to take part in the Rath Yatra. This was his great desire to preach in the West, where people were so strongly under the grip of speculative philosophies, denying God and glorifying sense enjoyment. The mass of people would not easily change their ignorant ways. But if he could make only one person a pure devotee, he said, then his work would be successful. Prabhupada would work intensively with his important India projects for a few months, but then would always return to the West to again tour and preach. Both were required, developing his projects in India and touring the West. When Yogi Bhajan and company in Berkeley had expressed their amazement at how Prabhupada was personally maintaining his disciples by traveling all over the world, Prabhupada had admitted that it was difficult and that he was trying to train his GBC secretaries to lead his movement. But so far, it seemed that as long as he had the power to do so, he would continue to travel. Laguna Beach, July 25, 1975. Laguna Beach was about a 2-hour drive south of Los Angeles. The temple, a house near the beach, was crowded with guests and visiting devotees. After Prabhupada had taken his seat upon the newly upholstered Vyasasan, some of the temple leaders came forward one at a time and bathed his feet. In the course of his lecture, Prabhupada spoke against taking intoxicating drugs. Is there anyone here who can say, I am the controller? Is there anyone who will answer this? You may think that you are the controller, but you are controlled by drugs. The city of Laguna Beach was notorious as an illicit drug center. Prabhupada had come not to flatter anyone with sentimental spirituality, but to cut through their illusion. Bathing the feet of the spiritual master was good, but to be a genuine devotee, one had to strictly follow the regulations. One had to choose whether to be controlled by drugs or by Krishna. Prabhupada stayed next door to the temple in a neighbor's house. His first visitor was Rishi Das, who had given up his initiation vows and fallen away from Krishna consciousness. Sporting long, curly hair and a beard, he had casually dropped by to pay a little visit to this former spiritual master. Prabhupada received Rishi warmly, and they both exchanged smiles and laughed. Rishi's demeanor, however, was brazen, almost defiant, and he showed no contrition. Prabhupada was not very happy to see the state of this boy to whom he had awarded the sannyasa order a few years before. In earlier years, Prabhupada had cried when a dear disciple had left him. In those days, the fall of a disciple had been rare, almost unheard of. But over the years, Prabhupada had seen more casualties, even among his GBC leaders and sannyasis. In 1967, when one of his first disciples, Krishna Devi Dasi, had left her husband, Subala had gone off with a boyfriend. Prabhupada had consoled Subala by reminding him how rare it was that one could become a devotee of Krishna. The wonderful thing is not that Krishna Dasi has left, Srila Prabhupada had said, but that we can stay in Krishna consciousness. Although devotees left Krishna consciousness for various reasons, Srila Prabhupada saw them all as having been tricked by illusion. The result was almost always the same, whether the defector left on the plea of a new religion or new economic opportunities or whatever. Usually he or she would take up a life of sense gratification, abandoning the strict path of self-realization. This was certainly true for Rishi. When Prabhupada asked him what he was doing with his life, he laughed and said he was playing saxophone. There was no need to ask him whether he was chanting 16 rounds or following the 4 rules. But Rishi wanted to assure Srila Prabhupada that he was doing fine. I think I have more freedom now, said Rishi. Do you think you have freedom? Prabhupada challenged. Some, Rishi replied, by studying and working. What is your age? Prabhupada asked. 29. Are you free? Are you free not to become older? Srila Prabhupada persisted. No. Then what is your freedom? Rishi gave a short laugh. I don't care. That's all right, Prabhupada replied. But I am researching. I am now 78. I don't wish to die, but I am forced. But you, too, are forced to become old. No one wants to be old. Recalling some of the Krishna conscious philosophy, Rishi tried to argue against Prabhupada, saying that although he was forced to grow old, according to transmigration of the soul, he would be free after death. And anyway, there were other freedoms. Prabhupada stuck to his original point and said, death is inevitable. Old age no one wants. Everyone wants youth. Even an old man goes to the beach for health. I want youth, but I cannot have it. So where is the freedom? Prabhupada then spoke at length for Rishi's benefit as well as for the benefit of the other devotees in the room. Persons under the influence of Maya, he said, declare that they are free. The drug addict or the drunkard thinks he is free to lie down on the street, yet his actions involve him in the strict laws of material nature. The outlaw declares himself free from the laws of the state, but he is put into jail. What is the use of his saying he is free? Therefore, Krishna says, Prabhupada explained, that whatever little freedom you have got, just surrender that freedom to me. Prabhupada's comments on false freedom were to the point. Within 2 hours of his arrival, he had already exposed the Laguna Beach mystique. Rishi continued to smile and argue, but before Prabhupada, he was just another youth with no real answers. Prabhupada was not interested in debating. He wanted to help his disciple. Rishi, however, was using whatever freedom he had to defy Krishna's representative, trusting instead in his youth, his intoxication, and his music. The door opened. There are some professors, Srila Prabhupada, announced the devotee, who form part of our congregation. Prabhupada greeted the new guests and asked that they sit up front on cushions. I was talking with this boy about freedom, said Prabhupada. So I say there is no freedom for us. We are always dependent. What is your opinion about it? One of the professors said he agreed, and Prabhupada continued speaking. He talked with the professors for more than an hour. Near the end, Upendra's 3-year-old son Soumya walked up to Prabhupada from the back of the room. Prabhupada gave him some money that was on the desk, and the boy ran back to his mother and gave her the money. Yes, when I was young, Prabhupada reminisced, if I got money, I would take it to my mother. But then, when I would become angry at her, I would demand it back. Sometimes I would steal money from my mother's purse and go watch Charlie Chaplin movies. His favorite scene was in a film called Hard Times, he said, when Charlie Chaplin sat down at a table with a knife and fork to eat a boot. San Diego, July 27, 1975. Srila Prabhupada rode down the San Diego freeway in the pre-dawn darkness on his way to San Diego to attend a festival in Balboa Park. On the way, he passed through San Clemente, where former President Richard Nixon was staying. Prabhupada had followed Nixon's exposure and resignation and had often mentioned it in his lectures, sometimes as an example of how even the most powerful men are subject to anxiety and loss, sometimes to illustrate the need for proper training in the 4 natural social orders. A devotee mentioned that Mr. Nixon lived here with no position, scorned by his countrymen. Then you should go and preach to him, Srila Prabhupada said. Since the man had lost everything and was lamenting, he said, he might be receptive to hearing about the absolute truth. Prabhupada had attempted a similar approach to Mahatma Gandhi. At Balboa Park, Prabhupada was pleased with the devotees' booths and colorful tents and the stage they had erected in the meadow. He had just begun addressing the large crowd when a man in the audience began shouting. Prabhupada asked what he was saying, and the devotee explained, Srila Prabhupada, the man says he wants to have sex more than once a month. He is creating disturbance, said Prabhupada into the microphone. After a tense moment, Prabhupada continued his lecture. So, as this man is talking about sex, so this whole material world is enchanted by sex. Taking the shouted protest as a new focus for his speech, Srila Prabhupada quoted Prahlad Maharaj's statement that all material entanglement begins from sexual enjoyment, which, in comparison to transcendental pleasure, is paltry and abominable. But real happiness, Prabhupada asserted, is above the senses. Whatever we enjoy with the gross senses is temporary, but permanent enjoyment is transcendental. So this man, he continued, was suggesting he wants sex at least once in a month. Yes, that is allowed. 5 days after the wife's menstrual period, the husband and wife can have sex for begetting rightful children. Prabhupada used the Vedic technical term, Garbhadana Samskara, To describe the process of purifying sex within marriage, the devotees were astonished that before a crowd of sexually liberated Southern Californians, Prabhupada was espousing responsible, legitimate sex. Usually, he discussed such matters, if at all, in letters to householders. But if the Americans were intent on sex, then Prabhupada would let them have it. But he stressed responsible, restricted sex. Otherwise, by irresponsible sex, one has to suffer. Sex life is not denied, Prabhupada said, but one must take responsibility for sex life. Otherwise, he becomes entangled in so many sinful activities. You can have sex life once in a month. That is prescribed because a woman has once in a month menstrual period. So sex life is meant for simply begetting nice children, not for sense gratification. If it is in a regulative form, the world may not become hell. If it is in irregulative form, then the whole world will be hell. Sex life is not denied. Sex life is not denied, but in a regulated form, so that you can get nice population and live very happily. Especially at the present moment, if you can produce children to become Krishna conscious, that would be a great service to the Lord, because we want a Krishna conscious population. Otherwise, this world is going to be hell. There were great empires like the Roman, Greek, and later on the Mughal Empire, the British Empire. Then there was Napoleon, Hitler, Mussolini. So all these powerful empires and men have come and gone. Only a name is there now. Nothing is remaining. So I came to your country, America. I decided to come here because I heard your country is very nice. And when I came here, I saw actually that your country is very nice. Your cities, your buildings, your men also, because mostly my students are Americans and they help me very kindly to push on this movement. So I have studied the American life very nicely. They have got a good heart. The only thing that is wanting is Krishna consciousness. For want of this Krishna consciousness, despite all of your opulences, you are becoming confused and frustrated. I hear that out of three, one man is a patient of psychiatrist. Why? Why are you unhappy? Why should you be unhappy? You have got everything: enough food, land, money, intelligence. Why then should you be unhappy? The cause of this you should try to find out. The cause is that without Krishna consciousness, without Krishna consciousness, without God consciousness, nobody can be happy. The outdoor audience was now quiet and attentive. Prabhupada spoke for about 40 minutes, ranging over different areas of Krishna conscious philosophy, and concluded with a request to the American men and women to seriously cooperate in Krishna consciousness and thereby find happiness. His talk was greeted with cheers, and the devotees continued to host the crowd throughout the afternoon, chanting and dancing and distributing prasadam. Hari Hari Bol. Wonderful. This is our life. Even by Prabhupada, chant, dance, and eat prasadam. so wonderfully again. I read Prabhupada, it's almost as if like we are there sitting in the audience as Prabhupada is speaking, and how nicely each and every point that he's making. Again, if somebody is smart, intelligent, even if you're not very smart, intelligent, just have some common sense, you'll be able to understand the point that he's trying to make. So, and that is what we see again, so many disciples that he did mercy on by giving them initiation, and many majority of them stayed. There are of course few defections who left, like we see this case of Rishi Prabhu, but ultimately Krishna has given us all a free will, and he doesn't want to force upon that free will, because that is the free will we all have as Jivatma. So if somebody wants to exercise that free will and go out of Krishna's shelter, pure devotee shelter, then Krishna doesn't interject, and Krishna allows them to exercise their free will. But those who stayed, and those who, which sometimes we see, like many times we get these instructions, not directly, we may not get directly many instructions from our Guru Maharaj or from Srila Prabhupada, his disciples, and they were there. Many times Prabhupada would correspond, like we see, with letters. He would write back to his devotees at different parts of the world. And these devotees would read those letters together, and they would see the message that Prabhupada gave to them. And not just to that person, but the others who were listening also. It was kind of a message for everybody. So like that, sometimes we may not get direct instructions from our Guru Maharaj, or from Srila Prabhupada, but when we read these exchanges, letters of Prabhupada, his pastimes, and the instruction that he gave to his disciples, these are eternal instructions for any disciple, for anybody in the parampara. So we should take these instructions to our heart as if Prabhupada is giving us personally these instructions. And that is what we see in many of Prabhupada's disciples, many of current Prabhupada's disciples, they have followed Prabhupada's instructions, which were not given to them directly, but spoken when Prabhupada spoke like this in a public setting, or when Prabhupada spoke to one devotee, like if Prabhupada is speaking to Rishi Prabhu here, who has left Krishna consciousness, and he is telling him, that where is freedom? You're looking for freedom, you're trying to enjoy, but is that real freedom? Because ultimately you have to give up everything, this whole body, and you'll be left with nothing. Where is the freedom, right? So it's a very deep and very strong message. But the others who were there maybe at that time, listened to Prabhupada's instructions to Rishi Prabhu, and they made it kind of part of their life, deeply in the core of their heart. They took that instruction, and that is why they stayed and they continued even after Prabhupada left. And for the last 50 years, 60 years, they have been carrying on this mission of Srila Prabhupada and progressed it to this extent where now it has grown even beyond what Prabhupada started with 108 temples. Now we are more than 1,000 temples all over the world. Why? Because of sincerity of his pure disciples. So that is what our mood should be, that when we read these books and these instructions of Prabhupada, these are direct instructions from the founder Acharya to all of us. He will always remain, he was, he is, and he will always remain our foremost Shiksha Guru. He is the foremost Guru for the whole of ISKCON, and all his instructions are for everybody. So if we read these, if we learn these and we apply them in our lives, then like they were saying, it pleases Srila Prabhupada, and it also will please us because we will feel a lot of satisfaction. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for your association. Anybody else would like to share anything? Mataji, Kishori Radha Mataji. Sometimes you have to leave for your work on weekdays, but today you are here, so I'd like to hear from you. Any of your thoughts, reflections?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for your dedicated service. Yeah, I identified with the paragraph where it talks about, Prabhupada is saying that we have everything, enough food, enough land, money, intelligence. Why should we be unhappy? But I remember, I was very fortunate to be given such nice parents and just a very nice life. I had everything, but yet I felt very deeply unhappy and basically without purpose. I didn't understand, why I was here in this I didn't understand why I was here. But when I came to Krishna consciousness or started on the spiritual path, then I started to understand like what the purpose was for being here. And just whenever I'm serving or chanting or reading, doing something related to Krishna consciousness, it's like then things feel okay because I understand, what the purpose is for my life, which is to remember to love God and serve God's devotees. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Yes, and you serve so nicely. I'm reminded, at the center, you're always there serving the devotees so nicely with the prasadam. You're always there in that seva to serve prasadam to the devotees. So you're directly following Prabhupada's instructions as he's saying here, distribute prasadam. Thank you so much for your wonderful service. And also when we're doing our monthly Food for Life program, you would cook prasadam that we will distribute. So thank you so much for this wonderful service that you are doing, following the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for sharing. Yes, Pravakar Prabhu, Mataji, I forgot your name. I know you told us the name that day.
Sangita.
Sangeeta Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anything that you liked, Mataji, from today's reading, or anything in general following?
I like this reading is very much because Prabhupada said one thing, that we have parents and we have siblings, we have children, but still we are unhappy. It's our foolishness because the several people that comes in the life and they also go away from our life. And we should not give that importance to them, that what they are saying, so they are comment on us. So we have to we should develop our Krishna consciousness and meditation. It will be more helpful for us to lead a happy life. That's important.
Yes,
Hare
thank
Krishna.
you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yeah, we should practice, like Prabhupada says, practice and then preach, right? Both are important. We cannot just preach, right, without practicing ourselves. If we don't have purity ourselves, then how
Mm,
will our message be powerful, right? So we have to practice. And when we practice, then our kids will also see, oh, it's not
mm,
just my fathers, my mother are just saying me to do this. They themselves are doing this, right? And
mm,
that is what, I mean, they may not understand it right now, but when they grow up, or as they somehow, that impression will always be there in their heart. And Krishna is there, he will guide. And ultimately, I've seen many such devotee kids and non-devotee kids also sometimes, they will, as they're studying, they're going to school, colleges, this foundation that we are laying right now, we may not see it right now, but this foundation will ground them when they step outside of the home. It will certainly be there somewhere in the corner of their heart, as to how they should lead their life. And yeah, again, like Prabhupada is teaching us here, that we have to practice and then we have to preach.
mm,
And he's saying, like, we want Krishna conscious children, right? That is our service. So begetting children is the right consciousness in serving Krishna, because we want such children who are Krishna consciousness, because they are the futures of tomorrow. So if we have such kids, who have this foundation of Krishna consciousness in their life, they grow up tomorrow, they are going to be the future leaders of the society, of the country. And such leaders, as in the previous yugas, there used to be Raja Rishis, right? The Rajas, the kings, were used to be saintly kings. And that is how they were able to rule the world, rule the citizens nicely. So those kind of leaders is what Prabhupada is envisioning. Like today he's saying, you should go and talk to that President Nixon, right? He's in anxiety, but he's in a state where he will be able to understand this. Prabhupada used to write to Mahatma Gandhi. So all the world leaders, because he, as a as a pure devotee of the Lord, he wanted that these leaders of the society should be Krishna conscious. So like that, yeah, I mean, our responsibility as parents is to raise our children in Krishna consciousness. How much ever we can do, if sincerely we're trying to practice ourselves, then they will certainly, that seed will be there, sown in their heart somewhere, which will germinate in the future, even if they're not doing it right now. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. Very
Yeah,
nice.
absolutely correct, Doctor. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Hare Krishna.
Okay, Pawan Prabhuji, anything from your side?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, very nice service. Preaching is the essence, and following the four regulatory principles to bring the life in Krishna consciousness. And that's, I always see when we recite the Prabhupada Lilamrit that I am in the audience and get so many blessings in this way, that I'm fortunate enough to hear what Prabhupada said 50 years ago. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Yeah, we are all in the audience, and like Prabhupada said yesterday, we celebrated his disappearance day. And in Krishna consciousness, our Acharyas explained, disappearance is even more powerful because disappearance is like Prabhupada going back home, back to Godhead, right? Meeting with all his wonderful, um, you know, uh, friends and devotees back home, back in the land of the Lord. So, and that day is very powerful. And Prabhupada yesterday, I didn't realize it, but like I mentioned in the class yesterday, in the reading yesterday, the reporter asked Prabhupada, what will happen to your movement after you die? Right? And then Prabhupada says, I will never die. I will live forever in my books and you shall utilize. So, and pure devotees, they will live forever through their instructions. So Prabhupada said that, and again and again, I mentioned this point, right? Whenever something a pure devotee says, Krishna puts all his energies behind that to make it true. Krishna will even make his own promise become false, but he will never make his devotees' promise go false, right? So like Bhishma Dev, he did the pratigya that he wanted to fight with Krishna in Mahabharata. Krishna himself had taken the vow that he will not even take any weapon in his hand, right? But Krishna broke his own promise to keep the promise of Bhishma Dev. He took the wheel chariot, and then he went to fight because that's what Bhishma Dev wanted, to see that Virya ras of the Lord, in the form of warrior. So that is the Lord's, mercy and compassion to his pure devotees, that if they say something, he will make sure that each and every word of what his pure devotees said will come true. So here Srila Prabhupada said that I will live forever in my books. If he said that, Krishna is making all his energies, putting all his energies to make that come true. And so when we read, Prabhupada is directly talking to us, like you said, each and everything that he's saying, we are in the audience. He's directly talking to all of us through his books. It's almost, even though this is 50 years ago, in transcendental world, there is no concept of time, right? So all the messages of the Lord and his pure devotees are eternal. Here, this world, everything will get diminished by time, or will get, everything will diminish or will be destroyed by time. But in spiritual world, Krishna, of course, Krishna is time. He says, Kalosmi, I am the time. So he is the time, and his influence is there in this material world to diminish things. But in spiritual world, there's always the eternal time. So it will never get diminished and never get deteriorated. So this message of his pure devotees will also remain for the next 10,000 years, as Prabhupada said. The next 10,000 years is the golden age of this Kali Yuga. So our goal should be to just, perfect our life first, and then preach and share this treasure with others as much as possible in our own humble way. So thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Matajis, all for joining today. Very wonderful association on a Sunday morning. We'll end with Vaishnava Pranam prayers. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnavrind ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Leelamrit ki jai. Kartik Mas Mahotsav ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.